Do you remember thinking to yourself in math class, when in the heck am I ever going to use this in the real world? Well, today. Today you're going to use real math in the real world, and hopefully it's going to help you make some real money, or at the very least, some really nice products. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a sublimation print template for conical objects. Now this is going to work for pint glasses, latte mugs, and shot glasses, and for this video, I'll be using a shot glass to demonstrate. But before we proceed, do me a favor and hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe to our channel for more heat transfer content and tutorials directly in your feed. All right, let's get started. Now, in order to make your own template, you'll first need to take 3 measurements on your blank: the opening diameter, the base diameter, and the wall height. Now, to avoid dealing with fractions of an inch, I'm going to use millimeters. And I'm using an HPN Premium Orca ceramic shot glass, so here are my measurements. The opening diameter is right about 50 millimeters. The base diameter is 38 millimeters. And the wall height is coming in at 63 millimeters. Now we need the circumference of both the opening and the base, so let's separately multiply each measurement by pi. And since we're working with shot glasses and not spaceships, pi to 2 decimals or 3.14 should be just fine. 50 times pi is 157, and 38 times pi is 119.32. Let's adjust our measurements now for our substrate. In this case, we're going to subtract 15 millimeters and round down from the circumferences, and then we're going to take 5 millimeters from the height to get our final measurements for our template, which are going to be 142, 104, and 58 millimeters respectively. Now we do this to accommodate for the gap in your heat press or oven wrap, and to keep crisp lines on top and bottom. If you want to attempt a top and bottom bleed, you can actually add 2 to 5 millimeters to your wall height measurement. And if your substrate has a handle, you'll want to subtract even more from the width. Okay, that's enough math for now. I'm sure you made your old math teacher proud. With our final measurements set, let's open up Photoshop and build our template. Okay, so now that we're in Photoshop, we're going to click on New File, and I want to create a new space that is going to be 8 inches wide by 10 inches tall. That way, if I go to print it on 8.5 by 11, it won't have any margin or spacing issues at all. You do want to be at a bare minimum of 300 DPI. And I mean, ideally, you'll be doing this in CMYK color mode, but RGB is perfectly fine as well. We're going to create. And now we're going to create some crosshair guides. Go to the select tool. And I do have my rulers on. If your rulers are not on, you can go to view, and you can just turn your rulers on right here. So I'm going to click on the top ruler, drag it down, and it should snap in place right at the halfway point. I'm going to do the same thing here from the left to create a vertical line snapped right there. And these are our crosshair guides. Now we're going to make 3 different boxes. I'm going to go ahead and actually let's right click that. We're going to need some rectangles and turn off the stroke. And let's fill it with just any color will do, really. We're going to do 3 of these. Now to duplicate a shape, a nice shortcut is to hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, click and drag, Alt, click and drag, and that's going to duplicate. Now we have 3 shapes. I do recommend using different colors for each shape, just to help us keep track of things. Now, each of our boxes are going to be a different one of our measurements. And so remember, our measurements are going to be 142 millimeters wide. So this one I have this selected. We're going to unlink the proportions. And on the width, I'm going to put 142 and then mm for millimeters. And if I hit enter, there we go. 142 okay. We're going to go to the next one. And by the way, if you hold the control button and click on any shape, it'll automatically select that layer. Okay, so now our next one, we need it to be 104 millimeters wide. So again, we're going to go right here in the width, 104 hit enter. There we go. And the last shape, this is going to be our height reference, and this is going to be 58 millimeters. Okay, this one's already in millimeters, so we're just going to punch in 58, hit enter. And there we go. Alrighty, so now we're going to drag all of these to the center of our crosshairs. They should snap in place here. There we go. They should all be centered on the crosshairs. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drag new guides to snap onto the edges of each box. So here's my thinner one. We're going to drag the guideline and it should snap in place. If your snapping is not turned on, you can go to, I believe, View and turn on Snap right there, and you can snap it. Select what you want it to snap to, but by default, it should snap in place to your shape. Now we're going to hide this shape. We're going to select our next shape, and we're going to drag more vertical guidelines right here to the side. Right there, there we go, and we can hide this one. And our final shape, we're going to drag guidelines because this represents the height of our template. There we go. It's going to fill that space right there. All right, now these other two boxes, you can hide them, you can delete them. We don't really need those anymore. We're going to be fine with this box right here. Now, this box is already sized to the height. Let's go ahead and size it to the inside guidelines. I'm going to click and drag an edge. And it should snap in place right there. Now, if you need to make sure that this is off, when you have that linked, what it's going to do is it's going to maintain proportion. So as you make it wider, it's going to be taller. You don't want that. So make sure you uncheck that, and then you could free transform. Make sure it's perfectly to the height right there. So we have our shape. It is going to fill in the height and the inside width. We're going to rename this shape to Artwork 1. You could really name it whatever you want to. And we're going to right click and convert to a smart object. Let's zoom in a little bit. We're holding Alt and scrolling here to zoom in. And now we're going to click on the corner of our box to open up the transform controls. And we're going to click this icon to enter warp mode. Now in warp mode, you can just click on a part. You can just free warp it. But that's not really what we want to do. So we're going to go to warp mode and we're going to click arc warp. Be careful you don't accidentally grab your guideline right here. Just click right off the side to the top. And we're going to adjust the warp to where the edges on the top line up with the outside edges of our guidelines. So you see right here, right there, it doesn't have to be 1,000,000% perfect, like if we zoom in, but that's definitely close enough. Okay, so we're almost done. That is the hard part about setting up this template. Let me show you how to edit it, and we're going to make our final adjustments here. Now to edit this, you're going to double click on the thumbnail for your smart object. And to avoid confusion, we're going to go ahead and delete those other two layers here. Don't click on this part. That won't do what we want it. You have to click on the thumbnail, double click there, and that's going to open up our shape in a new tab right here. Now you'll notice that this is not warped. This is still perfectly normal, and that's what we want. So when you're working with the smart object, any change you do here will reflect back in your original shape, but since we've warped the object, a smart object is almost like a mirror or a window into another file. So we could do whatever we want here, and now our smart object, it's kind of like it's giving us a window into that graphic, but in this main file, in our main template, we could warp it and do whatever the heck we want to it. So for example, I can drag in this artwork, right? Rotate it. There we go. Nice and centered. When I save, I'm just going to hit Control S. Of course, you could just go to File, Save, Control S. There we go. When I save it in this file, now it's reflected here. And now you can see the shape is kind of warped. And that warp is going to help us when we wrap this printout around our conical object, aka our shot glass. Now there is one more bit of math that we're going to have to do, and that's if you want to place two graphics on opposite faces of your shot glass. For example, we got another logo here. Let's bring this right now. If I wanted this to be on opposite sides of my shot glass, how would I know the proper spacing? Well, let me go ahead and show you how. We're going to create another box here. And your box, when you first draw it, you could draw it at any size. And this is going to be the last bit of math, okay? We're going to get the original circumference of the base and split that in half. So the original base circumference is 119.32. We're going to divide that by 2, 59.66. We're going to go back into Photoshop here. We're going to select this. We're going to put it on the crosshairs. And what was that number? 59.66. We're going to change our width to 59.66 millimeters. We're going to drag this back to the crosshairs, and we're going to do that same thing. We're going to put the guidelines right there on the edges. Now we can get rid of our center line if you want to. Get rid of this shape. We don't need that shape anymore. And so now any graphics that you want to be on opposite faces of your shot glass or whatever you're making, you're going to just drag it to the crosshairs, and they'll be perfectly spaced every time. Don't forget to save your smart object. I'm going to hit Control S. You can close this when you're done working on it, and now it's been automatically skewed. And I know it looks a little messed up here. That's the whole point. It's going to look perfectly fine once we wrap it around our shot glass. Now, if you don't want a solid background, which is very common for sublimation, you want it to be just plain white, you can totally do that. Change that to white. Control S to save it. Control W to close that window. Awesome. So it's skewed properly, but it's not going to, you don't really see where to trim. So we can definitely add some trim lines. Now we're really going to repeat our steps here. We're going to create a shape. I don't want a stroke. And we're going to do what we just did. So we're going to create a box, a shape inside this area. We're going to warp it. We don't need to turn this one into a smart object. We're going to warp it. We're using our arc warp. And we're going to resize it to be right about that size, just like the other one. Hit that check mark to render our design. We're going to drag this layer beneath our current artwork layer. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of free transform our shape to be just a little bit bigger than what we just did. Doesn't have to be super close or super far. Really, as long as it looks like this, you should be good. Gonna click yes on that. We're gonna go back to our shape. We're gonna turn off the fill now. We're gonna turn the stroke back on. Set it to 5 pixels, so just 5 and hit enter. And we're gonna turn that into a dotted line. And now you have a trim line. As long as you trim inside of this line, you should be good to go. Or the reason why we say trim inside the line is you don't want any of this printed area touching your substrate, because then it'll actually imprint on there. And now you have just successfully created your own template for a conical substrate. Again, I'm using a shot glass. In this example, if you're using something else, you may need to format your graphic a little bit differently. I use a shot glass because we could repeat these steps if we wanted to. Like I could fit at least 3 shot glass templates in here just by repeating these steps, and then I could print 3 different shot glass artworks on a single page. Now, if you want 3 different graphics, you would have to repeat all of these steps 2 additional times. If you just want to reprint, of course, select both layers, hold the Alt key, and you could just duplicate, right, as many as you want to fit. So that's really on you. Depends on how many of each individual artwork you want to make. But if you want to fit 3 different graphics here, you would just repeat these steps. But for now, I'm just going to leave this one right here in the middle. Of course, I can always come back, add more later. That's fine. One thing you do want to do is make sure your graphic is organized. So I'm going to rename this to be my trim guide. Now, in the event that I did have a solid background here, maybe I wanted it to be like a khaki almost, or just like a tan. Control S to save, Control W to close. You know, I probably don't need these trim lines, so I could just toggle them on and off. Right? All right, there we go. The last thing we're going to do is hit Control S in our master template, and now we can save it as our ceramic shot glass template. Hit Enter to save. Okay. And now we're good to go. Anytime I need to print another shot glass, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open. I'm going to find my ceramic shot glass template, double click that thumbnail, and now I'm free to edit. I can add customizations. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I just want a graphic, you know, on this side, right? Use my font tool, add my name. Resize that joint. Here we go. And maybe I want it to match the green, right? There we go. Control S to save, Control W to close. And now this is ready to print. Everything's properly skewed, so it's gonna look great, or I should say everything's properly warped, so it's gonna look great when we print it and wrap it around our shot glass. Now that we have the design done, I've gone ahead and printed it, and let's go ahead and actually put it onto a shot glass to see how it works. Now, I went with a really simple graphic on a white background, so I'm really glad that I added these trim lines. Now, when you're working with trim lines, you always want to cut on the inside of the trim line. You don't want any of that printed trim line touching your substrate. So I'm going to take very special care to cut inside my trim line. It's actually providing a great guide for me. Anytime you're printing with a white background, or maybe a background that's not clearly defined, you definitely want to do a printed trim line. There we go. And now this is my transfer. So now we're going to wrap it around our conical object, and you'll see that because we warped it and shaped it the way we did, we're actually going to get a perfect wrap. This paper is going to go ahead and wrap around perfectly. Now, to hold it in place, I am going to get a little bit of heat tape. Just going to get it right, get some right there. Nice and tight. There we go. My shot glass is all prepared, and it's ready to go into our heat press. Now, today we are using the Signature Series Sublimation Mug Press with the shot glass attachment installed. Now, that attachment does come in a few different bundles, but if you already have the Signature Sublimation Mug Press, you can purchase it separately as a standalone attachment. Now for this next part, I'm going to go ahead and put on my heat protective glove. Now you do want to be careful to keep the gap facing perfectly up. Now another thing you could do is you could put the shot glass. This is not as precise, but it'll keep your hands safe. Put it on like a ruler or something, and then when you go to close it, there we go. 385 degrees, 190 seconds on the clock. We're going to let our mug press handle business. As you open up the mug press with the shot glass attachment loaded, because it's tapered, the shot glass has a tendency to slide out and down. So either be prepared to catch it, or how you just saw me load it with either a pair of scissors or a ruler, be prepared to hold it and keep it from sliding out, possibly landing on something and cracking. But that's going to be our time, so I'm going to carefully put that in there to stop my shot glass. There we go. I feel it slipping out. Now this is going to be very hot, okay? So you want to be very careful. You could just let it cool somewhere safely for a few moments before we peel. All right, our shot glass is still a little warm, but I can't wait. I got to see how this came out. So we're going to carefully get a little bit of that tape off. There we go. Peel and reveal. Doggone, that looks good. We got a very simple logo here on the front, and I'm a big fan of less is more. Now, of course, we could fill the entire background with color. We could put pictures on here. We could put other branding logo on here. We can do whatever we want. Or let me rephrase, you can do whatever you want now that you know how to do your very own template for conical shaped items. Heat Press Nation has a huge selection of sublimation blanks, equipment, and supplies, and we also carry tons of other heat transfer products for everyone from the casual hobbyist to the professional print shop owner. So come and check us out at heatpressnation.com.